You're watching Open Agenda. Here's our host, Joe White.
Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. And in this episode, we're going to review the safari at the Quarry from the beginnings when the MOU was first discovered by the public, throughout the time when the county council became involved, and even some of the aftermath of the safari at the Quarry. In the studio with me today is our executive producer, Joe Venosa. Joe, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
So let's recap, because this has been about a year, maybe 13 months that this whole process is played out. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes you have a tendency to forget some of the details early on. But we're going to get a chance to look at the video and really hear what people had to say in real time.
Yeah.
So the very first step on the MOU was when Casey Taylor, who was the HOA president at Shadow Hills, came to the September 19th county council meeting. And I think at this time, she has no idea who's responsible for booking the safari at the Quarry. She just saw a Facebook post.
Correct. And actually, you're going to see generally this sort of ongoing theme of no one in the community, be it at Shadow Hills or throughout the county or even the county council, is aware of anything unless they hear about it on Facebook first.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like ruled by social media.
Well, unless the county council was going to do a contract with someone like Livewire Media, then they would have to be a work session, public hearing.
Correct. The rules are different, right?
Okay. Well, so we're finding that out all together, right?
Exactly.
So let's roll to the video. We're going to see Casey Taylor's very first comments on September 19th, and then also her follow-up on October 3rd. And I think you get a chance to see just how much she's caught up on the information.
My name's Casey Taylor, and I'm a homeowner in the Shadow Hills development, and I'm also the president of the Shadow Hills Homeowners Association. Our development is located off of Conley Mill Road in Delmar, Maryland. In 2017, our HOA came to the county council to voice our support for accepting of the donation of land adjoining our development, commonly known as the pits. This land was valued at over $1 million at the time, was previously used as a borrow pit for the construction of the bypass. In the years after, it became a local nuisance because of out-of-town landowners and locals using the area for off-roading with trucks, ATVs, and dirt bikes. It was brought to our attention last week in a Facebook post advertising Safari at the Quarry, with the 74-acre trails, obstacle fields, hangout area. The post continued that it is without doubt the perfect gathering location for family, friends, and off-road enthusiasts. What was the approval process? How did this happen without public notice? Since speaking at the last council meeting, the county executive's office reached out regarding our concerns. We learned that the county's executive office signed into an MOU agreement with Livewire Media, LLC, on September 2nd, 2023. We were able to obtain a copy of this MOU, and after reading it, there were several concerns as homeowners and tax-paying citizens with this MOU. On September 28th, and I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but it says that the county is to provide manpower equipment to assist with setups. No mention of reimbursement to the county. Manpower and we believe that manpower and equipment hours used for this event should be documented and charged to Livewire. It also states that the county shall receive 10% of the net profit of each event. It does not state that Livewire needs to provide. It does state that Livewire needs to provide a report to the county about events, including accounting of revenue and expenses.
My name is Bill Harden. I've been living in Shadow Hills development for like 16 years. I've seen a number of MOUs written in my former job as state trooper for 25 years, chief of police, at a certain city. And the MOU that I viewed that was written up by the county executive, to me, does not appear to be, and I'm not an attorney, it just doesn't appear to be legally sufficient or legally sound.
It's very important, and I've stressed this for years, that before you do anything in a neighborhood, you have to have community input. If the community is not for it, it should not be done.
Shuttle through it, let us know what is or what isn't. We're not really sure what the true expenses are. We really are not sure what the obligations are to the county as a whole. And in addition to that, we want to make sure that should this event take place, that it will be an event that is amicable to the neighboring communities, because that is important. That was, as you suggested tonight, Mrs. Taylor, that was one of the key points as to why the county took this over, because there was so much trouble with the dirt bikes in that neighborhood. And for once, they were going to get a reprieve, and the county was going to take it over. You're going to have an event. It looks like it's being established for a long term, maybe quite a few events, possibly over several months. I'm curious as to how we're going to be able to continue to transfer the loads of dirt that we need at the landfill. How we're going to make that work. There's a lot of unanswered questions that I think the public would like to know more about as well. And this is that public venue for everyone.
So that was Casey Taylor on the September 19th and the October 3rd county council meetings, in her own words, really talking about the surprise, right? And then this shoddy MOU that was signed with Livewire Media. Mm-hmm. At the November 7th meeting, it was discovered that there was going to be a work session with Livewire Media, and the county executive initially had asked for it to be at the daytime meeting on November 21st. We're going to go here to listen to Laura Hurley talk about how they're actually going to move it to a more convenient time for the general public.
Are we going to have a work session on the safari with Livewire? Is that?
Yep.
I
think it's the next meeting, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure the people in the audience knew that we were going to have one.
We cannot do during the day work.
And we're trying to work around that, recognizing the day meeting's not going to work.
Yeah, so the county executive's office sent the request over specifically asking for that work session to be at our next meeting, which would be November the 21st, I believe. But some of the council members have expressed concerns about having it during the day.
We'll move it to December 1st, the first meeting in December. Mm-hmm. I think we have the time.
So that was really the county council and the general public getting a chance to say, all right, we don't really understand what's going on here, but we're going to do a work session, maybe a little bit backwards, but a work session with Brad Hoffman from Livewire Media on the 5th. Were you attending this meeting?
I did not attend it. I did watch it as it happened on PAC 14.
Okay. A lot happened at this work session.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to go to the video here in just a second, but basically Brad Hoffman, who's the principal for Livewire Media, who's actually hosting this event, has the MOU with the county executive, is now going back and discussing how it will work. He admits that he never spoke with the community at Shadow Hills. Mm-hmm. He does mention, though, Joe, and I want you to speak to this. He says that Mikkel Darlene, who is now the president of HOA at Shadow Hills, is on board with it after speaking with him. Is that accurate?
That is about as accurate as saying that the Chicago White Sox had a good season in 2024. No, it is not accurate in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, all the times I've heard her speak publicly and privately, I've never heard her be in favor of this. It's interesting that he would almost put words in her mouth.
Particularly when, as we're going to see, and as happens anyway, other community members can give public comments at a county council meeting and set the record straight.
Yeah. Well, you talk about putting words in people's mouth. Julie Giordano, the county executive, actually insinuates that Mike Lewis, the county sheriff, is on board with this event. We're going to play the video that explains exactly how he feels. Now, that didn't come until April, but we're going to put that in there. Mm-hmm. Finally, Brad Hoffman actually says that he'll pay for the county sheriffs if need be. And my understanding is this event has not made any money, so I wonder if he has.
Oh, we can roll the footage and confirm exactly what was said.
So I tell you what, let's go to the footage now. Let's see exactly what Brad Hoffman has to say, what Julie Giordano has to say in her own words, and what Sheriff Mike Lewis has to say.
First item on the agenda is a discussion with Mr. Hoffman from Livewire Media.
Good evening, Council. Appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak about our plans over there at the Quarry location. My name's Brad Hoffman. I know you guys have some questions, and I'm here to kind of clear up any misperceptions about what we're going to be hopefully doing over there. I guess the best idea first is to show you guys a short video that we created to kind of give you a feeling for what the event will look like and what types of vehicles I'll go into in the presentation here. Through the questions, and I apologize, I never spoke to the community member back there. I would have answered any of these questions. I'm always a good neighbor. I treat any facilities or venues that I deal with like it's my house with respect, and I admire the relationship with the community. So I wish I would have known and been able to speak with the lady that came up earlier and spoke. I did speak to Mikkel Dahlin, I think, and she and I had a great conversation. I think she's the incoming community president. I just tried to clear up any misperceptions about the facility, what would we be doing over there, how would it be managed, and she seemed to be in favor of the event because she had a better feeling after the conversation than she did before without any information. Estimated maybe 100 to 150 Jeeps, 200 Jeeps will come in, that's about 300 or 400 people that will come in. It'll be a multiple day event. The next question was, they're all street legal Jeeps, insured and tagged and not modified like you would see at a mud hop or a drag strip or anything like that.
Would your people have that authority on a public road as far as traffic?
Well, we would also be reaching out to the county sheriff's department to work with them.
So the sheriff has already been made aware of the event, and so he just said, let us know, and we'll make sure that we have staff out there.
The sheriff has said he'll have staff out?
Yeah. How long ago was that? That was like in our meeting with him in our office. So he's aware of the event, and so.
I can tell you, while I'm up here, I was never asked to support this event because I don't support the event. I don't. I don't. And I was never asked my opinion about having this event. I'm saying this because I've been told that in comments made to this group that I supported this event. Yes. Is that true? Yes. Well, let me make one thing perfectly clear. Wow. I have never been involved in any discussion ever other than being told it was going to happen and we'll keep you posted.
That's all she does.
My opinion was never sought. I don't support it, but I promise you this. There will be deputies, additional deputies that are going to be paid to work that day in Shadow Hills to protect your development.
You know what obligation that would be as far as the county is concerned, as far as expenses? How many deputies are going to be required? What the costs are going to be?
I think it'll just depend. We actually wanted to get more so the numbers. So once we figure out who's registered, then it would determine on how many deputies were needed, and it would just be considered, the same depending on who's on the shift. If it was an overtime event, it would be, it's in their budget to do it, and it's.
Well, the reason I ask is because if the sheriff's department work at the Center at Salisbury, if the sheriff's department has responsibilities with at other organizations, they are reimbursed by that, and I'm assuming that.
Yes, I would do that. I would make sure that I cover the cost on that, to make sure that if they have to come in and work the area that's leading off of Conley Mill Road into the site, that I would make sure that I take care of the sheriff's department on those costs. Security needed to have for the event, then I'll pay for those guys to be out there. Utilize the site in a way that's respectful and make it enjoyable for the families and individuals that come and do this at my other events, and they're excited about it. I did mention the event.
So I guess making sure we answered the questions that were brought up earlier. I think the first one was how far from homes or residential property?
That's an excellent question. So we did some Google mapping, and literally from the closest vehicle, it's over a football field away.
I guess to the administration, I guess how do we verify, or I see that there'd be a 10% net profit.
Yes.
Is that do we get a base level money plus net 10% net, or how do we verify that we get
I'll bring all the registration information from my registration model and then show the council, or as well show Julie all the dollars that have come in through the event, and then I would base off of the cost of like the sheriff's department and any other costs that we have for the event.
What were the positives? What were the negatives? What was the community? Was it worth it? And so I've known Brad a really long time, and so I feel very confident in the product that he's going to bring. But if it doesn't work out and it's not something that we want to do again, then it'll just be the one event. We'll make a little bit of money, which is a positive.
And we did meet with the chamber in Salisbury, and they're really excited about it. And I think,
Are they going to be on a track or anything you want to say as far as the
yeah, so the
impact
trails are
environment?
already, I guess, established over the period of years at the property. They're well marked, and we basically keep them on a track. Yes, so that's the plan. Is not they don't go off the trail line, and we said it earlier.
Whoa. Joe, I think that Jeep's lost.
It's slightly off course.
A little bit off course.
This isn't a black diamond. It's more of a green hill at this point. And then, obviously, when we leave, me as the production company, we will clean up and take anything that we come in with out with us. And then I think, like Julie says, it's up to the county. At that point, we've locked the gates now locked at the front.
Right, so we've had Steve Miller out there as well. So Steve is, obviously the department head for that. So tourism will be, obviously brought in when it comes down to it. But again, it's one of those things that we're waiting to see how many people register and then what we're doing. But Steve has been made aware.
Did you wonder why it was written for 364 days instead of a year? 365? Was there a reason?
Yes, there was a reason.
Okay.
And he's very aware of the reason.
Yes. Can you tell me what the reason is, Mr. Hoffman?
I believe to go year by year with this.
It's not a year. It's 360. It's 1 day less than a year.
Oh, I just thought that it was because we wanted to do this, make it happen, and then revisit it before the year was out.
It was written that way so it wouldn't have to come in front of the council. That's the way it was. Correct, Julie?
Well, that was one of the reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I wanted to bring this event because I wanted to do something and bring it and have it be successful, and it's going to be successful. So we are still in a work in progress. Yes, the event is going to happen, but we are making the public aware, and I apologize that it didn't go in the order that people think it should. It was advertised, and I'm sorry that your phone blew up, but it's just the way that it happened. And look,
Either county roads or our public works department or whatever has got to provide that manpower to assist that. So at what point does it start costing the county money to do that?
so I guess maybe this should be more specific. So the manpower and equipment to assist with event setup is happening literally right now. So we needed to secure the site anyway, and that's part of what they needed as well. So we wanted it that he doesn't have the machines that we do. So we knew that we were going to secure the site, which is also helping.
Okay.
So, but what is in writing is that the conversion to turn it into a park was turned down by council. So we had talked about, Rec and Parks had talked about converting this into that, and it was voted down. So in this aspect of it being low impact, this is low impact.
I don't recall.
Literally when the Jeeps.
We did not
So
vote it.
program open space.
Hold on, wait. Program open space, go ahead.
Program open space was going to be moved from West Metro to this facility, and that was not, that
We
did
didn't
not
turn
move
down.
forward.
We didn't turn down a low impact park for that area.
Well, anyway, this still is low impact.
we didn't turn it down as a
They're learning, so this is low impact. It's literally going to be left the same exact way that it is now. To have 2 days, I would consider that out of 365, I would feel like that's low impact.
That depends on the neighbor.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you would consider including us on the next contract so we can have a little bit of say, a little bit of opinion.
Understanding.
Would you be willing to do that?
I'll consider it, yeah, of course.
Well, and
So in the December 5th work session, that is what was said in real time at that point in history. I don't think there's much disputing that there was a lot of misinformation and there was a lot of folks who were putting words in other people's mouths. What do you think?
Absolutely. The video doesn't lie.
So let's fast forward to the March 19th meeting. Now, at this point, there's been 3 months of the community trying to work with the county executive, trying to get some changes and amendments made to this event, mostly because their concerns were never asked beforehand. And I think this is where you see Mikkel Darlene get up to the podium and really talk in a passionate way about really, I guess, the way the county executive has kind of put her in her place and basically said, this event's going to happen, like it or leave it, right?
Yep.
Is this about the time you started to get involved?
It's about the time that I started to notice, I would say, sort of the unique and frankly dangerous level of power that is vested in this particular county's executive office. Because hearing the testimony of residents and taxpayers who talk about being straight up attacked by elected officials with no recourse, I think that was the thing that for me really sort of spoke to the level of concern.
Well, let's listen to Mikkel Darlene and just exactly what she had to say.
I am here today to put on the public record an extremely distressing phone call that I received from Ms. Giordano on March 5th, 2024. Upon receiving the call from Ms. Giordano, I was initially hopeful that she intended to have a productive conversation regarding our community's concerns. Unfortunately, this was not the case. I can only describe the conversation that ensued as being intensely hostile and intimidating. Ms. Giordano immediately took an adversarial posture and literally began the conversation by yelling at me and continued to do so for 8 to 10 minutes. Ms. Giordano yelled that we had no right to question her actions or what the county does with its own land. I would also remind Ms. Giordano that the citizens of Wacomico County own that land and it is not her personal possession to dispense with at her whim. Ms. Giordano yelled, "You all need to just stop. No matter what you do, this event is going to happen, whether you like it or not." This statement was made with a clear intent to intimidate. We will not stop. We will continue to strenuously oppose these events through every appropriate channel available. Ms. Giordano loudly rebuked our efforts to appeal to the county council and to speak publicly at council meetings once again, this was an inexcusable attempt to intimidate us into silence. As a former sexual assault services coordinator responsible for 4 counties in Virginia, I interfaced with many different government officials, both elected and bureaucratic, on issues of legislative advocacy. Although at times we represented different sides of a given issue, never had I been spoken to by a public official in such a disrespectful and malicious manner as Ms. Giordano spoke to me during this call. I therefore asked the county council to consider any available remedies to censure or reprimand Ms. Giordano for behavior unbecoming of a government official. I am a taxpayer and responsible city of Wacomico County and never should have been subjected to such verbal abuse. I thank you today for your time.
I'm Heather Langford. I am the county's engineer and sort of the point person for this project. I think I'd like to put some things at rest for you guys. I actually just left the site with MDE Mining. There has been nothing out of compliance in their purview. I'm not sure. We've had calls, or MDE has had calls concerning massive ramps being built and endangered species. Again, they come out. I just left the site right before I got here in the midst of some of these comments, and none of that is there.
I just want to say to the folks of the Shadow Hills that are here, I want you to know, I know you all have better things to do. I deeply apologize, on behalf. We're the legislative branch. We're not the executive branch, but my goodness, you didn't deserve to be to have that kind of the way things have been handled. It could not have gone any worse. It should not be going that way. If this were come up to the vote right now for the council, it'd be unanimous and quite powerfully saying no. But
so that was Mikkel, in her own words. That was kind of hard to watch. I mean, this is someone who's a mom. She's a wife. She's just a resident taxpayer in the county, and is completely being shut out by part of her government without any checks or balances.
No transparency, no balances.
Nothing. Now, on April 2nd, Mike Goldberg actually gives a very impactful speech, just really about how this event has impacted his life. And I think later on, he does have a run-in with Heather Langford and Julie Giordano at the access road. But I also think you get a chance to hear from Heather Langford herself some of the misstatements, basically saying that, well, the mining overseers said that there's nothing wrong out there. Mm-hmm. But they don't go outside the purview of the pit itself. Mm-hmm. So let's listen into what Mike Goldberg and Heather Langford had to say.
Good evening, I'm Mike Goldberg. I reside in Del Mar in the Shadow Hills subdivision. I'm speaking this evening in regard to the off-road vehicle event, Safari at the Quarry, to take place at the proposed Connolly Mill site in Del Mar. As we're all aware, the county executive, Julie Giordano, single-handedly entered into a contract with Livewire Media to stage multiple off-road vehicle events at the Connolly Mill property. The memorandum of understanding was not an arm's-length contract, as the county executive has admitted to being long acquainted with Livewire's principal, Brad Hoffman. It has become clear that too much power has been vested in the office of the county executive under the current charter. No citizen of Wicomico County should be deprived of the quiet enjoyment of their homes or suffer diminishment of property values at the whim of a single individual who exercises power recklessly and without regard for the human consequences.
Heather Langford, you can speak as loud as you like, but you're incorrect about a lot of things. I called the police on him. I am only here to state some factual information as the engineer and to clarify a few items. The taxpayers' expenditures related to this event include personal hours, police support for traffic control, roll fencing, manpower and equipment to assist with event setup, and marketing support. To date, the county has overestimated approximately $1,064 has been spent for the event by the county. The county does not make the obstacle course, have rolled fencing, or do marketing support as claimed in the petition. This is all Livewire Media financially supported.
Hi, I'm Craig Stofko, retired Director of Department of Health for Somerset County, retired 6 years ago. Having been a health officer for many years, I've written dozens of MOUs, I've signed hundreds, thousands. When I first saw this MOU, I thought it was a rough draft. I won't say I thought it was a joke, but I thought it was a rough draft. When I realized it wasn't, I reviewed it and still amazed and contend that it's the most shabby piece of work I've ever seen in my life. But that notwithstanding, when you look at their own numbers, this MOU is set up so that one person is set to gain somewhere in the vicinity of $100,000, where I find it impossible that the county can break even on this, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they do, the county gets zero. So an MOU is set up where one individual is going to make $100,000, the county gets nothing. As a health officer, I always operated under, if there's even the potential to be perceived conflict of interest, shut it down. Potential for perceived conflict of interest. And here we have a guy whose only qualification of using taxpayer-funded land and equipment is that he's longtime friends with the county executive. I just think that's absurd.
With all due respect to the safari at the Quarry, I think the council would have wanted to see that agreement before they approved it, because with due respect, the agreement was terrible.
First of all, just on the safari at the Quarry, I second that. If we could cancel the event, I certainly think we should. I am one of the very first votes I took as a council member was to accept this property and then to have it be, or to use that property for, they're going to pull soil off of it, and then it was going to become a park. So that's what we were planned for. That's what was, so this whole other use is completely foreign to that.
We had a chance to listen to Mike Goldberg and Heather Langford, and just before we came back, Craig Stofko, who's also a resident in Shadow Hills, spoke about his experience with MOUs and his interpretation of this MOU. I think he really does break it down really well. At the end of the day, the MOU is because Brad Hoffman is friends with Julie Giordano.
Well, and that's not even, and not to put words in the executive's mouth, because that's what she says several times. So the fact that that was admitted sort of just makes the level just of this whole ordeal all the more shocking.
Now, Craig says he's not a lawyer, and that's true, but Bob Benson is. Mm-hmm. And on May 7th, Bob Benson actually goes to the MOU, breaks it down, the strengths and the weaknesses are many. He has a chance to really give an attorney's opinion of the Safari at the Quarry MOU. But then it was really interesting. Josh Hastings, who is a county councilman, also said that basically if this event and this MOU had come to them, it was almost likely to be voted down, and yet it never did. So Julie really kind of has a big reaction to these events. Really, she apologizes to Brad Hoffman. Then she also kind of accuses the county council of changing the course of that was supposed to be a park at Conley Mill, which actually didn't happen. John Cannon takes some time, I want to listen to him too, explain the real process of what is meant to be at Conley Mill Park.
But I was not going to put this county in a state to where a lawsuit for a breach of contract could happen. I'm not going to do it. I was not elected to waiver, or I wasn't elected to waiver at the first sight of adversity. What kind of leader would I be? I will not change my stance on something that I know is the right thing to do for someone in the room. I'm not going to speak out on something that I don't have all the facts because of political pressure. And I absolutely will not cater to any group to just tell them what they want to hear. If any elected official does that, congratulations, you are a true politician. There are many in this room that have jumped to conclusions, ignored the facts, created their own narratives. And I am going to say this one more time. At no point ever has my administration stated that we are against the property at Conley Mill eventually becoming a park. The decision to hold off on this was done prior to my administration and prior to this council.
In this email, lastly, the county council is the reason they're talking about Conley Mill. The county council is the reason the property did not live forward. I think they mean move, she meant move forward as a park in 2021 before I took office. This ecologically valuable site is only used to mine dirt for our landfill and will continue to be that at the council's request. Now, this is a statement saying that the council has requested in 2021 that Conley Mill be nothing more than a mining pit. Couldn't be anything further from the truth.
In terms of the land and what happened to it, my biggest disappointment was the night that all the Jeep people came and we were kind of pitted against one another. And their contention was that they left the property in as good or better condition than they found it. But what they failed to mention was that at this time last year, there was 1 mile, almost exactly 1 mile of trails back there. Today, and you can go online and compare the satellite images, today there are 3.5 miles of trails back there. The number of trees that had to be cut down in order to make these trails is impossible to count. To answer Mike's question, will it be restored to its original condition? Mother Nature is doing the best she can. I still go back there every day, but no one ever told me I couldn't, so I still go back there all the time. Mother Nature is overgrowing those trails, but the trees that were cut down are gone. And most of them were little trees, but when you kill a little tree, it never gets a chance to be a big tree. So very unfortunate that in addition to the lack of transparency through this whole thing by certain people, there was a great deal of disingenuousness to say that the land wasn't impacted and they left it in better condition is absurd when they added more than 2 miles of new trails. And I'm not saying they made the new trails. I don't know who made the new trails, but the fact that obstacles were built on these new trails using gigantic tire tractors, railroad ties, hard pressed to believe that anyone's ever going to go back there and remove that construction from the forest. So again, thank you. We really appreciate your work on this. Thank you for listening to the people.
So that's the history of Safari at the Quarry. I mean, right now we are still as of October of 2024, we're still waiting for the numbers. Maybe does the county have any net proceeds from this event? Joe, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I can remember when the event ended, the initial, I guess, performance by the executive and her assistant, Mr. Bunky Luffman, had stated that there were these massive, filled parking lots in the hotels all over the area, which, according to what we've heard, though, is not necessarily true because it's our understanding that the event lost money.
I mean, at least unofficially, that's what the position has been. So,
which means the county lost money.
The county taxpayers, and that's not even counting the manpower and the equipment that were used from Public Works,
which we don't actually know about. Correct? There's no.
We don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
But I think that answer is going to come.
Interesting.
I think one of the really key aspects here is we want to continue to attend the county council meetings. Mm-hmm. We still want to ask questions. We want to be respectful, but at the same time, I do think we are owed answers and we're owed accountability. So how do you feel like this really circles back to question A? I mean, how does this involve question A?
Well, I think the essence of what question A is all about is distilled in this one situation. Because when we look at the fact that we have a very, in many ways, out of control executive office that can function without any real accountability, without any real transparency, without any oversight of the public, and can operate sort of at the discretion of one single person on decisions that affect our environment, our taxpayers, our property values, our public safety, it really shows you that one event can just demonstrate why this question is so important for it to pass.
Maybe be a case study.
It is a case study. It is a great lesson that I think any teacher would be proud to show as evidence.
So thank you for watching this episode of Open Agenda. Appreciate you taking a look back at the safari at the Quarry. We'll be back next week with another episode. Have a great night.
I know what I'm doing, man.